you can't be 10 toes down that people are being like haters for no reason, for hating the way you express yourself, and then have no trace of self-expression.
I just think it's so insane that he asked his haters to get specific.
Because everything surrounding this album just sets him up so spectacularly for failure.
People started doing like, oh, what's Moonbeam Ice Cream?
I hate Benson Boone!
Stop trying to make us perceive you as this new Harry or Freddie. The more you force it, the less it's going to happen. Hey guys, it's Briar, and let's chat about it. Now, why does the internet seem to hate Benson Boone? That is the question that has been pinballing around my head for most of 2025, to be honest, and somehow it's July. And since he recently released his new album, American Heart, I feel like enough has happened for us to really dive deep into this question, to really get down into this rabbit hole, go on some tangents, and just really explore this question. Why does the internet hate Benson Boone? Because at this point, it really does feel like it's part of the internet culture, and I just really wanted to explore and yap about that with you guys. So if you just want to hang out and explore this question, I don't know if we'll find an answer. Well, we probably will, but is it a good answer? Who knows? Stick around and let's get into it. Now, one thing I want to make very clear is that this is not intended to pile on Benson Boone or add to the hate or just have like unnecessary conversations or attack him for like no reason. It is genuinely to explore this question. It's really embedded into the culture that that's how the internet feels. The hate is there, but why? Like, why is there so much hateritis for this 23-year-old boy pop? So yes, I just wanted to make it very clear, because obviously the optics of like a 30-year-old no one from New Zealand making fun or like dogpiling onto a 23-year-old guy that I don't know, yeah, that doesn't look good for me. But exploring the question and kind of yapping about it with you guys is what I am about, so I just wanted to make my intentions clear. That was so holistic of me to make my intentions clear for the video, but let's simply start at the beginning. So before we can even get into the hate, I feel like we needed to get into the who and the how did Benson Boone become famous, and like then the when. We're going through the who, what, when, where, and whys of it all, if you know what I mean. If you guys watch Dark on Netflix, sometimes the question is not where, it's when. But at first we will ask who. What am I saying? I'm so sorry. Again, I don't know why I keep filming on a Friday afternoon. It gives me the sillies. I get the zoomies. But who is Benson Boone? I hear you all asking. Get on to the topic. Get to the point. Okay, fine. Benson Boone, he was born June 25th, 2002. So he is 23 and he is a Cancer.
When's your birthday?
June 25th.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Why? Are you like one of those aquarium guys?
Yeah, I'm going to Yes. I frequent the aquarium. I am deeply connected with the larger aquarium.
Isn't that what it is though? It's like you either have Cancer, a Scorpion, or aquarium.
No.
or tortoise. So if you were interested into what aquarium he's in, he is a Cancer, and he grew up in Monroe, Washington, the state, not DC, and he actually grew up with 4 sisters. So I feel like quite a big family and obviously a lot of sisters. That is an interesting dynamic. But I think a piece of information that we also need to add is that he grew up LDS or Mormon, and I feel like this is something that does get brought up a lot. So I wanted to kind of point that out now, because when we get into the why and the where did the hate come from, I do see some fingers pointing towards how he grew up religious. But I do want to also note that he does say he is no longer religious. This comes from his interview with Rolling Stone, where he says, "I don't want to be part of one religion. I have my own opinions. Some are from this religion, some are from this religion, and some are from no religion." The break came quietly and early. Growing up, a lot of people at church would talk about these experiences experiences that they've had and these personal revelations and feelings and voices. I never felt it as physically present as they did. And so I was always confused and frustrated. I was always scared to bring that up to people because I just didn't want to accept that like I wasn't feeling what everyone else was feeling. He even eventually admitted to a friend who replied, "Thank goodness I feel the same." So that is kind of his most current statement on religion and whether or not he is still Mormon. So I feel like that is an establishing piece of information. Have you established it? Good. So I think that's all we really need to know about like his early life and his childhood. I don't particularly think much else is relevant to how we got to where we are right here, right now. So let's simply go into the early 2020s, which is when Benson Boone started to get popular. Another thing that comes up about Benson a lot is him being an industry plant. If you do not know, that is just a term that people use when they feel like an artist has been chosen by the music industry, I don't know why I did bunny ears, the music industry, to become famous. They've like chosen them and they are kind of forcing this person upon us because they want to make money. It can often come because labels feel like they are missing a certain artist in a certain market. For Benson Boone, it would be the industry kind of trying to replace or add new kind of One Direction, Harry Styles, like guys in that pop industry that appeal to younger girls. So that is another thing that gets thrown around a lot. So I did kind of want to investigate, like, how did he become famous? How did the world find out about Benson Boone? And kind of the first way is TikTok.
This is Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo that I wrote from the guy's perspective.
To me, honestly, it's kind of the 2020 equivalent of like Justin Bieber being found on YouTube. To me, it doesn't particularly scream industry plant, but the other way that he did become famous is through auditioning for American Idol. So I will play for you guys now his audition and how the judges responded to him.
My name is Benson Boone. I'm 18 years old and I'm from Monroe, Washington.
What made you want to audition for Idol?
I started singing a year ago.
So you a big TikToker?
Oh boy. I do some singing and then entertainment. Not like, I don't, like there's a lot of thirst traps on there, like guys trying to be around.
What's this guy that's on TikTok that's like
Noah Beck.
Noah, yeah. And he does his little dances.
Yeah,
and
does his little dances, takes his
nonchalant.
shirt off.
This is designed to scare the hell out of you.
It is.
Hurry up.
I don't need no cameras to see your point of view.
All right.
One thing I just have to get clear and straight. You never sang growing up.
No one in my family sings, so I just didn't like think it.
You just never took it serious?
Yeah.
They're gonna swoon over Benson Boone. I like see American Idol and I see you. And I see you winning American Idol if you want to.
It's a yes.
Yes, yes.
Hopefully I was able to add that in without getting copywritten. Interestingly, Benson actually quit American Idol after making it to the top 24. Even though multiple judges, specifically Katy Perry, were being like, you bestie, you're gonna be a star, like love you. They were obsessed with Mr. Boone. You could tell they saw the vision and they could see how he could grow an audience, which obviously he has. But he actually explains on the Zach Sang podcast. I know the most bizarre things always happen on that podcast, but he explained as to why he decided to leave American Idol. So let's hear from Benson himself as to why he decided to leave American Idol.
The reason I quit American Idol is because I wanted to do music. I decided that I wanted to do music, and I don't want to be part of, like, I don't want people to be like, oh, Benson Boone, American Idol blew him up, like that's where he comes from. Like, no, I want to be Benson Boone because I write smash hits and they love my music. That's why I quit. I just didn't want that label on me.
And I think that's really interesting and probably a bigger reflection of how the younger people younger than myself, perceive American Idol. And honestly, I'm not going to say he's wrong, because honestly, I feel like it is so hit and miss with American Idol these days, especially how far you're going to go. And I do think you can kind of get boxed in as being like another music singing show kind of contestant. So I can understand why he ended up quitting. A lot of people did give him a lot of crap for it at the time and were like, This goofy goober, oh my gosh, so young, so silly, big mistake, huge, when in reality he Julia Roberts them all because obviously he's so big and popular now. But at what cost? I'm getting ahead of myself. From all of this, he found a mentor in Dan Reynolds. And if you're like, who? Me too, bestie, me too. So Dan Reynolds is the lead singer from Imagine Dragons. And look, I am definitely not trying to minimize how insanely popular Imagine Dragons are. But have I ever met anyone that's told me Imagine Dragons are their favorite band? No.
Imagine Dragons are touring. Do you want to come with me?
Could I pick Dan Reynolds out from a lineup? Also no. Okay, I know you guys are judging me, but pick him out. Tell me who it is. Exactly. So when I look at his come up and introduction story into fame, I don't particularly get industry plant vibes, although I must disclaim, I am just a girly pop from New Zealand. What literally do I know? He could be an industry plant for all I know, but it's not kind of the vibes I get from it. I think it's a combination of like talent, luck, and pursuing your dreams, right? Like he was putting himself out there on TikTok. He went and auditioned for American Idol, and then obviously he also got lucky by finding a mentor in Dan Reynolds from Imagine Dragons. So I think it's definitely more of a reflection of the music industry in general, where there's hundreds, if not thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people doing those exact same steps, but only very few people actually make it into the pop culture, make it into the limelight, get success from doing those things. So it's definitely a mix of all of the things combined, right? So from all of this that I've explained so far, I'm sure you're kind of like, okay, so why do people hate him? Fair question. Well, let's now get into his first album, which is Fireworks and Rollerblades. And I feel like an important piece of information you guys need to know about me is I'm team Rollerblades. Have been since I was young. Insert picture of me with my rollerblades as a child. You're welcome. Thank you, editing Briar. So I feel like now we know each other better. But I do think overall this album was received pretty well. I would say knowing that his mentor was the guy from Imagine Dragons makes sense, right? Like the vibes of all of these songs, I think the biggest songs were obviously Beautiful Things, but also Slow It Down and In the Stars. Like I feel like they're very radio friendly, pop, easy to listen to, easy for the radio to play songs. And I feel like it does kind of give Imagine Dragons, but I think the main things that we can take away from this album is obviously the amount of success that he got being so new to the industry and how popular some singles became from that album. But also a seed I want to give you guys for when we reflect and kind of listen to the hateritis of it all is the vibes of this album. He opened for Taylor Swift for the Eras tour and just generally performing for this album. I would say the vibes, like yes, he definitely has a passion for fashion and kind of wears more fun outfits, but it's definitely still outfits that you would see, like you would be able to buy these outfits in the store. And I think that is something that people are going to compare to his new style from his new album a lot. So I did want to point it out now. So from the outset and kind of the 2021 to 2024 of it all, like there's really not that much to indicate that we were going to end up where we are now. If we knew then what we know now, I think we would have been kind of shocked, because definitely in 2024, like Benson Boone just kind of became like a Teddy Swims or a Shaboozey. Like they became a part of the radio pop hits. You heard the songs everywhere. What is important to note, especially about the song Beautiful Things, is that even though the album Fireworks and Rollerblades was released in April of 2024, that song was the first single, so it was released earlier in January of 2024. So by the time we get to today of July 2025, that song has been out for over a year and a half, really. And I think people just had heard it enough. And to just really give you the numbers, you're talking about the numbers of it all, to put into perspective how played Beautiful Things was, it has over 2.2 billion with a Briar Chats B streams on Spotify alone. Now, if you were to compare that to a song that I feel like a lot of people also feel is incredibly overplayed, which, I mean, I like this song and I like this artist, Shaboozey, by the way. I do quite like him. He was the only guy that featured in my Spotify top 5 last year. But Shaboozey's A Bar song had 1.3 billion with a B streams on Spotify. So just so you can fully comprehend and understand, almost a billion more streams for Beautiful Things. And I think what that obviously led to was people getting sick of it. They were really sick of listening to Beautiful Things. And is that Benson's fault? I think unfortunately the way that like Spotify playlists and like the music and radio industry work, they do tend to overplay popular songs. But to this extent, yeah, that's a lot. 2.2 billion streams? Unfathomable. I can't say that word. When a song gets that overplayed, even though it's the annoyance at hearing the song for the a billionth time, the frustration does leak out onto the artist. And I feel like we've heard a lot of female artists and celebrities in general talk about feeling like they've become oversaturated in the pop culture. I feel like Taylor Swift has talked about this a lot. Charlie XCX has talked about this a lot with Brat, and kind of wanting to know when to hang Brat up and to close the Brat era, as to end it on a high and not end it in a situation like this where everyone is just sick and tired of hearing the song. Jennifer Lawrence and Emma Stone are celebrities that really come to my mind, where they felt like they were just in every single movie that they realized, oh, like the culture, the audience, the internet, it's not vibing anymore. Obviously, I've become too much and I need to take a step back so that we can have a break. We were on a break. And come back and have a good relationship with the fans, with the audience, with the internet, however you want to describe it. So I think it is really interesting that we are seeing this happen to a man. Not that I'm saying it's never happened to a man before, but I think women are so hyper conscious of this and are very aware of how we're being perceived. It is interesting to see this reaction happen to a guy, and a young guy, when you think about like the Justin Biebers and the One Directions. I don't really remember that happening. Maybe because for all of them they had personal situations going on where they were kind of forced to step back from the limelight and kind of have that break with the fans. I don't know. Very interesting. Would love to know what you guys think about that specifically in the comments. Please let me know. But kind of the final thing that I wanted to establish before we get into the 2025, the tides changing of it all, is the backflips. Now, one thing you need to know about Benson Boone is he's gonna backflip.
Do you plan your flips?
No.
Do you practice your flips?
No.
No.
They just kind of, I've been doing them forever. They like, if you knew me growing up and you saw a video of me now and you hadn't seen anything else, like if you went to preschool with me,
Yes.
and then you just had not heard the name Benson Boone since then, and then you see a video of me doing a backflip, she'd probably be like, he's still doing this? Like,
He has said all his life it's a personality trait.
It's a lifestyle, Brian.
For him, doing backflips is in his nature. I'm just gonna play this clip from the Basement Yard where Joe Santagato talks about the backflips, because I feel like it just really summarizes how the culture feels about the backflips.
Can I say something about Benson Boone? Guy's flipping. He's doing flips. But I want to say this about Benson Boone. I don't think his music is bad. I think it's good music. I think it's good, like pop music and like whatever, blah blah blah. Happy for his success, all this shit. I will say, and I can't help it, but this is just how I feel, I'm just waiting for when that flip goes bad. Because it's statistically gotta happen.
Listen,
it's gotta happen.
That's
and
a
I
risky,
hope he's okay.
Bro, I hear what you're saying. I hope his PR team is just like, you have like 10 more flips in you, and then stop.
Chill.
Stop maybe once a year. This guy is flipping, and
Dude.
you're right. Law of numbers.
He's going to overturn one time, and bing, pow.
How many videos have you seen people doing like flips gone wrong?
Countless.
And this guy is right now, he's a big pop star.
Bro, one of his shows recently, he flipped off of something that wasn't like a piano or this desk. It was fucking high. And I thought it was it. I was like, oh.
And I do think that backflips bother people for many different reasons, but I think because he literally does them every single time he performs, it's not an if Benson is going to do a flip, but it's a when will he do a flip. It's giving us a bit of concern that one time it's not going to go well and we're all going to witness something that no one wants to witness. And I think it's tricky because obviously, like if you went to a Cirque du Soleil, like a Pink concert, like I don't know if anyone's worried that Pink is going to hurt herself. I get that artists do a lot. Like they are doing the most when they're performing to us. And like, thank you so much. We appreciate the show. But it does just make people, I think, a little bit worried. The backflips are kind of have the same energy as the beautiful things, where it's like, okay, we've probably heard and seen that enough. Like you don't need to backflip and you don't need to sing beautiful things anymore. I will note also, a lot of people argue about what kind of flip he's doing. Maybe he does a different one sometimes. I'm not a flipping expert. Maybe you guys can argue it out in the comments. What kind of flip is he actually doing? I don't know. Just have a great debate about it. Get me engagement right. I have seen a lot of people arguing because like people will say it's a backflip and then they'll be like, actually it's a handspring. And I'll be like, I don't know. I could do a forward flip on a trampoline. It kind of gives me the same energy. You know, when you see those rock climbers that do it without any gear, stresses me out. But anyway, that's 2024. Now let's get into 2025 because that is really when the tides shifted. And I want to start with the Grammys because I think the Grammys is a good reflection of everything we just talked about, of how people were feeling from 2024 going into 2025. Like they were over the backflips, we had heard beautiful things enough, and people were just kind of sick of it. So I did want to play you guys this TikTok that I found where she talks about the Grammys kind of being a ground zero or like an important point in the law to look back on as to like when and how the shift happened.
As a history major, I'm a little peeved that we're not factoring in the context and like the ground zero for the Benson Boone hate train. Because it was the Grammys, but it was specifically the fact that this performance that we all talk about, the Freddie Mercury outfit, the flips, it was not just at the Grammys, it was right after Doechie's performance. And to me, that detail is indicative of the bigger issue for me, was that at the Grammys, it was Sabrina Carpenter, Doechii, Chappell Roan, Beyonce, Kendrick, and him. It was the girls, the gays, Kendrick, and him. Like, that Best New Artist montage performance was a brilliant idea, but poor thing didn't stand a chance. I mean, you had Sabrina Carpenter with this, like, really fun theatricality, and then you had Chappell Roan performing this, this queer anthem on national television, talking about, like, the impact and the importance of safe queer spaces. And then you had Doechii giving this, like, all-around, like, just gold medal home run performance from, like, costume department, like design, like lighting, performance, like the whole 9 yards. And then immediately followed by a really half-assed costume change, an overplayed, cheap, mass-produced Fordist song, and a flip. Poor thing did not stand a chance. It really was an instance for me where, like, male mediocrity was so blatantly obvious. White male mediocrity, I'll say, because Kendrick swept that night. That was ground zero for me. Because, like, I don't know how you show up and consider yourself equal alongside that slew of artists. Just in that category alone. Co-opting queer culture and queer history while Chappell Roan and Doechii are actively on the front lines.
And I think this take is really interesting because when I thought about it, I didn't even really remember him from the Grammys. Before I did the research for this video, I was like, yeah, I kind of fully forgot about him because the Grammys is such a highly regarded award ceremony and it's, the best of the best. I think a lot of people just really saw the blatant difference between a Sabrina Carpenter, a Chappell Roan performance, a Doechii, a Kendrick performance, to a Benson Boone performance. He is more of an Imagine Dragons pop music radio type of a performer that when you are put next to someone that genuinely is obsessed with the theatrics, with the drama, its scale, especially when you're so quickly and closely performing next to these other people, the comparison becomes so obvious and where you stand in the music industry became so obvious. And I think because everyone was so sick, we were so sick and tired of hearing the song, of seeing him do a flip. It gave a lot of people permission to be like, brother, this guy stinks. Now, is that my reaction? No, I think I just kind of forgot about him. I forgot that you existed. I was too busy clowning about, Taylor Swift releasing Reputation when it wasn't even bloody recorded now. I just kind of forgot about him, to be honest. That's why I really wanted to go down this rabbit hole because yes, of course, I've heard Benson Boone's song Beautiful Things 2.2 billion times, but have I ever really been invested in him, his career, or his performances? No, but I think I always kind of put that down to me clearly not being in his demographic, old lady, young guy. It's just clearly not for me, and I kind of dismissed it. But when I started to see this kind of disdain and frustration with him, I just had to know why. And so even though this personally wasn't really my experience watching the Grammys, I think it was just because I didn't even really take note of him. And I don't even say that to be mean or rude. It's just that he's so not on my radar. But I think for a lot of people, they were sick and tired of listening to the song over and over again, and they felt like he wasn't giving us anything new. He was doing the same thing, but now he's also kind of going for Harry Styles and Freddie Mercury nachos by wearing these sparkly jumpsuits, and it just felt really inauthentic, which is a word you need to put a pin in. So another reason I bring up the Grammys first is because I feel like it really sets up the literal and metaphorical stage for Coachella of 2025. Without knowing or seeing that frustration that people felt, if this guy sings Beautiful Things and does a backflip, I'm gonna flip my back. And especially a lot of people feeling like he didn't measure up at the Grammys. People are like, okay, now you have to measure up to the other names that you're next to. Lady Gaga, have you heard of her? Missy Elliott. And the other days where it was, Charlie XCX, Post Malone, Megan Thee Stallion. A lot of people were like, okay, let's keep it fresh, let's keep it moving, let's do something new. So what actually happened at Coachella 2025? Well, as you know, I'm sure, there are 2 weekends for Coachella. So let's talk about weekend 1 first, where he brings out Brian May, which if you do not know, again, would I have known if I was in that crowd and I'm far away from the screen? Would I have known that that was the guitarist for Queen? Maybe had a few beveragginos? Look, all I'm saying is I can't say for sure that I would have known who that old man was. And I think that that is probably what a lot of people felt. I think you have to remember, Coachella, yes, is a music festival, but is it a festival for music lovers in the same way other music festivals are? I don't know. I think a lot of people go to Coachella for a lot of different reasons. And do I think that the kind of younger Benson Boone crowd and people kind of there would know who Brian May was or think that this is the most exciting guest that Benson Boone could bring out? Tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like no. And I feel like that was obvious from the reaction he got. The audience, a lot of people just call out the audience for being too cool and lackluster at Coachella anyway. So the audience was giving nothing. The audience was like, sure, okay, whatever. And obviously that rubbed Benson and Brian up the wrong way because they're like, hello, icon legend, the moment. And they're kind of like, bored. Like, I'm sorry, the Coachella audience does kind of have an attitude, kind of a bit too cool vibes. I've never been, but that's just what the energy that was given off. And because of this, I think that this heightened a lot of tension. It heightened the tension between Benson thinking that he thinks he's bringing out something different, something cool. He's bringing out a guest that is a icon in the music world, and people just didn't particularly care. Or at least they didn't maybe care in the way that they cared when Charlie brought out Lorde and Troy. To me, it's kind of surprising that Benson was surprised that the audience reacted that way. But for one reason or another, that happened. That led to a few things, but the first I want to note is that it definitely did not help the allegations that Benson Boone was just desperate for Freddie Mercury, Harry Styles nachos. Like, he's in these jumpsuits, these sparkly jumpsuits that people, again, are starting to feel like is not authentic to him. It's kind of come out of nowhere. It doesn't really seem to feel like a genuine part of his style. And then he brings out Freddie Mercury's guitarist, or, you know, the Queen's guitarist, and it's like, okay, you're trying to be Freddie Mercury, you're singing Bohemian Rhapsody, you've got Brian May on, like, you can't force us to think that you're Freddie Mercury. Like, everyone's reaction is like, stop trying to make fetch happen. Stop trying to make us perceive you as this new Harry or Freddie, because it's not happening, and the more you force it, the less it's going to happen. But I did now want to play you a couple of TikToks, how Benson reacted and as to how he felt about the anticlimactic reaction he got for bringing out the icon that was Brian May. And I will say a lot of the comments are saying that Coachella didn't deserve Brian, and I just feel like it was a bit of a time and place situation, and you brought Brian May out at Coachella 2025. I think there could have been a better audience that would have appreciated it more, whereas instead this audience is just finding you annoying and saying that you're after Freddie Mercury's nachos, and you're proving it to them. I just honestly don't think it was the right place to bring him out as a guest star. He literally didn't come back for Weekend 2. Like, I guess it can only be rumors whether or not Brian was ever going to do Weekend 2, but either way, irregardless, as Gretchen Wieners would say, he instead had to use a cardboard cutout of Brian May because he was not going back to Coachella Weekend 2. I will give it to Coachella Weekend 2. They always get punished for Coachella Weekend 1. Like, they never get the same energy. And I do feel like, if anything, people that go to Weekend 2 are maybe more into the music, from what I understand. Never been. What do I know? To summarize the whole situation, it didn't go down well. And I think for Benson, as you saw in his video, like, he was so excited. He's like, I'm releasing new music, I'm performing Queen songs with the guitarist of Queen, and crickets. He felt like he was giving so much, and he was trying to give to the audience and respond to the criticism of him doing the same thing over again, like do something new, do something fun. And then when he did, it was met with a pretty frosty or underwhelmed reception. But I think that really does lead us into the authenticity aspect of this all. And this is where we really dive into why people don't like him. Because I think you've kind of picked up the vibe that, like, people found him annoying, people found his song overplayed. But the word that honestly came up the most to me was inauthentic. A lot of people feel like Benson Boone is inauthentic, and I think that's where the industry plant kind of rumors come from, is he's not authentic, he's not real, must be an industry plant. It's an interesting criticism to have, and I think it's really reflective. It's really reflective of what people want out of artists and celebrities at the moment, which is, to me, very interesting, because these people are so famous and rich and live lives that we can't ever really imagine having, but we want them to still feel relatable. It's quite a dichotomy, but I do want to get into the authenticity aspect of it all, because I do think that this is a huge part as to why people don't like him. Coming from the going for other people's nachos, it basically means that you're just desperate to have what someone else had. You can even be desperate for your own nachos because you did something cool in the past and you're trying to recreate the magic. A lot of people feel like Benson wants to become the next Freddie and the next Harry, but instead of that just being a natural and organic evolution of his career, people feel like he's really trying to force it and going from the outfits and the vibes that he had in his Fireworks and Rollerblades era to this American Heart new album era that is what he's starting in 2025 and the outfits he's wearing and performing in 2025. People just feel like the switch up was so drastic, but I think more notably, people don't think it's a natural way for him to express himself. People don't see this extra camp, sequins, glitter, jumpsuit side of him in any other aspects of his life. So I did want to show you a TikTok of people talking about it, just to show how people feel like this outfit and this persona he has online doesn't feel like an extension or another part of his personality, but kind of him stealing from other people's performing personalities.
You know how I know that this is not authentic to Benson Boone? I've never met a man committed to like creative expression with just like no trace of like style or home decor, like not even some like cool weird like shit from his grandparents, you know. Everything is new and curated generically in a very Airbnb core kind of way. It would work for anything and everyone. Like, you can't be 10 toes down that people are being like haters for no reason for hating the way you express yourself, and then have no trace of self-expression or like appreciation of art or even like color. A stylist picked out this outfit. I just don't believe you.
Hot take, but the weird vibes or the ick that y'all are getting from Benson Boone isn't because he's a Mormon or used to be a Mormon. It's because he has turned himself into a brand, or his label might have, either way. But he's trying to sell authenticity and relatability. And because he's not being his authentic self, it's falling flat and making people go, ugh. Now let's do a little exercise. Let's say this is y'all's first impression of me. Hi, I'm Nessie. I'm a theatrical costume designer. I created DashCon. I got the shit bit out of me by a raccoon last week. And also, more importantly, I'm a grad student studying critically endangered raccoon conservation. Do you believe me? I just said a bunch of weird ass shit. But do you believe me? If so, why? Right, now watch this. And watch his other videos. Can you tell that he's trying to sell you something? That he does not have a single video up where he's not? Have y'all seen any external or environmental cues that validate the vibe he's trying to sell y'all? Like, for realsies. Do y'all really think that a guy with no organic environmental whimsy in his natural habitat is randomly showing up looking like this authentically? Or this? This is learned behavior adopted to appeal to young women who will buy his music and attend his tours. It's giving, like, female gaze guy. Do you remember him? Inauthentic. Weird. Anyway, this is what Benson Boone looked like in 2021. And honestly, this seems a lot more authentic to me.
And I think those videos raise such interesting points, especially how he used to present himself online and in the beginning in his earlier TikToks and how he was on American Idol. Like, that felt like a very natural representation in the way that he presented himself. People just feel like because it's been so drastic and this expression and creativity and extraness doesn't show up in any other aspect of his life, that it feels so inauthentic. Whether or not to him that feels like an authentic or way that he wants to look when he performs, it doesn't feel like it's an extension or a reflection of who he is as a person. It doesn't connect him with his audience. It makes the audience feel like he's trying to dress in a certain way to make them look at him, to appeal to him, to think, oh, that's like Harry Styles. I like that. He's seen other people dress this way and that's been successful for them, and not understood, or the label's not understood, or someone's not understood that the reason that that worked for those artists is because it felt like an extension of them. I feel like to compare to like female artists, yes, a lot of them have different eras and different looks for those eras, specifically Taylor, but even though every era is aesthetically very different, it never felt like it wasn't her. It felt like it was a reflection of a different part of her life, a different style and energy that she had to her in that era. It wasn't as if she had made up an era or that wasn't authentic or reflective of who she was and how she felt at the time. So it's not like you can't change your aesthetic or your vibe. When you change albums or when you evolve as an artist, a lot of people crave this authenticity. Most people would just rather him show up in such a more bland, dressed down kind of way, but it feels true to him. It feels like who he is as a person, as opposed to him seeing, oh, that's how Freddie dressed, that's how Harry dressed, that's how whomsoever else dressed, that's how Brendan Urie sung, and just copying that because you're still trying to find your own identity. And I think that is maybe something to note of just being young and not being sure of who you are as a performer. But I think that's when you have other people helping you, guiding you, making sure you're not just copying other people. And I think again, the Mormon situation does come up in this authenticity argument, because a lot of people are trying to attribute why they don't like or trust him to specific things. And for me, obviously, I'm not the best person to understand those religious dynamics in a different country, where I come from a country that is majority a non-religious country. But for a lot of people, I think it just sets off that alarm bell of, what does it say about your values? What are your other beliefs? And then even further, especially in America, it leads into the political side of things, which he hasn't really spoken about it, so I'm not going to give him more or less credit than he deserves. I do also wonder again if it's because he's young, and we've seen people like Chappell talk about, yes, she voted for Kamala, but she doesn't agree with everything that they promote. Again, obviously, I'm not the best person to speak on it because New Zealand is quite different and obviously a much more left country in general, but I'm definitely not going to give him more or less credit about the political issues. But I will note, to play devil's avocado for a minute, when I think back about like Taylor Swift and in her Miss Americana documentary, like it took her a really long time to feel like she was able to speak out about politics, and that was against everyone else in the room telling her not to. So I do kind of get the vibe that labels don't really want their artists to be speaking out about these things, because to labels, they don't want to lose money, and unfortunately it just ends up impacting artists negatively because they're not speaking out, they're not using their voice. Those are things that kind of circulate in my silly little brain when I hear those types of criticisms come up. Equally, because he has specifically said he's not Mormon anymore, you can't hold how he grew up, which is not his choice, too much against him. But I don't know, I really don't know enough about the situation. And like in New Zealand, we do have a Mormon cult, and it does give very scary vibes, and it makes me like, yeah, it's really scary for the women in that especially, but that's a whole other rabbit hole that we do not have time to go down. But yeah, I do understand the concerns, and I definitely am not trying to dismiss any of those concerns, but I think all of those things kind of pile into the inauthenticity argument against him. That really set the scene for going into his new album, and also for him to start this to be a conversation. You see it a little bit in the Coachella situation, but Benson obviously, I mean, as most people would, I'm sure, wanted to defend himself, especially if he felt like he was being authentic, or he felt like, like he said, he's doing these really cool things, releasing new music, he's performing with Brian May. He wanted to stick up for himself. He wanted to push back on the criticism. And I think especially to him, he felt like he was getting criticized for no real reason, or like not a big reason. And I think that is fair. Initially, a lot of it was around just finding him annoying. So he was like, okay guys, if you're going to dislike me or hate me, have a good reason. And this really all came to a head after the Coachella situation, because he posted a TikTok that is no longer available. To be fair, he has wiped a lot of his TikToks, but this one is also not available, where he said, if you hate me or my music, at least have a good reason for it. I just read a comment that says, I don't even know why I hate Benson Boone, but it just feels right. Like what? How am I supposed to improve after reading that? At least say something something valid, like he low-key just flips everywhere? Can he do anything else? Or even, I just don't like his songs, even though I'm basing my opinion off the only one that I've heard over and over, in brackets super valid. I'm literally giving you ideas. And I don't know what response he thought he was going to get, but I don't think it was this. The internet is so unserious, and I don't know, Gen Z especially has kind of just like that vibe and attitude of like, oh, you want me to say it with my full chest? I'm gonna say it with my full chest. So instead of people being like, oh yeah, no, you're right, just because someone has an overplayed and annoying song doesn't mean I should hate them and write them off as a human being. Instead, I think it just really made people be like, oh, you want us to get specific. So I wanted to play you guys this TikTok kind of talking about that.
This is why I made the video. If you hate me or my music, at least have a good reason for it. I just read a comment saying, I don't even know why I hate Benson Boone, but it feels right. Like what? Blah, 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 blah. At least say something valid. Like he low-key just flips everywhere. He thinks that hating him because he flips so much is valid. So the reason I am giving feedback right now is valid. He does not feel authentic or genuine. That's what I'm saying here. He was wondering why people feel this way, and I've stated this is why many people feel this way. It does not feel authentic or genuine. You can disagree with that, okay? I'm not jealous of Benson Boone. I don't want to be a pop star with a mustache. I'm good on that, okay? Harry Styles went on tour, wore a lot of this very similar looks to what Benson Boone is wearing just 3 years later. I get it, he's trying to be like Freddie Mercury. So is JoJo Siwa. She went on tour dressed in a lot of the same looks that Benson Boone went on. It's just a lot of, like, it feels like you watched the Queen movie and got really inspired and then went on tour. That's what it feels like. It feels disingenuous. And you know, a lot of times people, and people are like, oh, but Harry Styles, da, da, da. I also don't, I think that Harry Styles also wore what Elton John wore a lot. But when Harry Styles did it, people hadn't really redone that yet. It felt authentic. Whether people did redo it or not, it still felt authentic. Authenticity is something you can feel and gauge. You do not have to know an artist to see that. Many people hate many artists that don't feel authentic every single day. And when you're a musical artist, you are open to the court of public opinion, okay? There's a lot of older women and much younger women waiting for Harry Styles to come back that really love Benson Boone. When Harry Styles comes back later this year, we will see something happen to Benson Boone's career, okay? I do not think he does not have fans. I saw the people that showed up to his Coachella performance. All his performances are stacked. He's very popular right now. And he's a great, phenomenal singer. And his flips are exciting, I guess. Okay? All that can be true. But if you go back and watch my complete video, you will see that I'm saying what many of you are saying in the comments. It's going to take time. It's going to take him some time. He's an ex-Mormon. Give him some time. I agree with you.
The only hot take I have on Benson Boone is I just think it's so insane that he asked his haters to get specific about why they hated him and list the reasons why. That is crazy to me. And I feel like we're really glossing over the insanity in that choice. Like, if I had a ton of people hating on me and it was hurting my feelings and I wanted it to stop, the last thing I would ever do is ask those haters to keep going. What? Yeah, you've already told me that you hate me and my entire vibe, but keep going, expound on that, elaborate if you will. And yeah, don't be afraid to get real into the weeds with it. That's crazy. That's the opposite of what I would want to happen. I wouldn't want to hear the reasons why people hate me. I'd want my haters to shut up. I wouldn't want to hear it at all. If you hate my vibe, okay, you don't have to tell me why. That's none of my business.
So instead of what I think he hoped would happen, which is everyone having a step back and being like, you know what, Benson, now that you mention it, you're right. Instead of that happening, the Gen Z audience internet response was, oh, you wanted to see our homework. You wanted to for us to stand 10 toes down. Okay, sure. And obviously the inauthenticity was a huge thing, the stuff that we've already gone over. His singing technique as well is another thing that gets brought up a lot. That also happens to Gracie Abrams. Everyone's a bloody professional singer online, and they're very worried that he's going to damage his vocal cords. I mean, we all remember when we watched Pitch Perfect, I think it was Pitch Perfect 2, and Britney's character, I can't remember her name right now, got nodes. I mean, it's a real thing. It's something very scary for artists and singers to have. So I understand why people are kind of bringing it up, but it does feel like everyone on the internet is just a bloody expert, aren't they? And this definitely makes me reflect on other times when celebrities have tried to get in on the joke or in on the meme or kind of have a two-way conversation about it. And I just feel like it never goes as well as one would hope. I think the best examples are probably Demi Lovato. In the beginning, she definitely did not like Poot Lovato or her favorite dish. Over the years, she's definitely taken it in her stride. Lea Michele has definitely tried to take the joke that she can't read well. It does just feel like sometimes you're just trying to join in on the joke or diffuse or be like, hey guys, don't hate me, please. Guys, please don't hate me, please. I didn't do anything. I know my song's annoying, but that's not a reason to hate me. And I do think what's really interesting to note is that instead of reflecting on, people found beautiful things from Fireworks and Rollerblades a bit much by the end of it, I definitely shouldn't do that again when I promote my new song for my new album, American Heart, which we will get into in a second, but no, instead he did that with Mystical Magical, like the first single from that album. If Moonbeam Ice Cream means nothing to you,
Moonbeam Ice Cream.
Oh, thank goodness for you. You must know peace, and I love that for you. But instead of learning from the these beautiful things that's the part that everyone's like, stop screaming. You're going to get nodes, you're going to ruin your vocal cords. Instead of learning from that, he was like, I think I'm going to play this part of my song. Moonbeam ice cream, dancing in your blue jeans, 'cause it feels so mystical, magical. Instead of not doing the exact same thing, he did the exact same thing. He literally just replaced Beautiful Things as the annoying song with Mystical Magical as the annoying song, and it just really felt like he didn't learn or take in the feedback that he was actually asking for, and instead he just kind of kept trucking on. But what I did want to talk about before we get into American Heart, his newest album, and the reaction, how it's all gone. It's hard to watch, guys. I did want to watch a Jimmy Fallon interview that he did because he does talk about the whole situation. So, I don't know. Do you want to watch it? Okay, cool.
Your fans love you on the internet. You have a lot of great fans, and you're very engaged with them. Do you check on things, and do you read the internet? And
yes and no. I think lately, over the last couple months, I've tried to look less. Yeah. So I'm on it, I think now, like a healthy amount where I kind of limit myself a little bit.
You don't want it to get to you. I mean, because you were talking a little bit backstage, and you said, you kind of started or kind of helped start a little Who is Benson Boone type of deal.
Oh yeah, well, that's the thing. It kind of went really right, but really wrong. So
I like this.
A couple months ago, when I first posted the Moonbeam Ice Cream.
Yeah.
I was like, what is Moonbeam Ice Cream? Like nobody knows. I don't know. And so, I was like, maybe it'd be nice to kind of spark some just interest in people's
chatter.
minds. Yeah, maybe I hire a couple people to be like, yo, what is Moonbeam Ice Cream? Why is this guy singing about Moonbeam Ice Cream? Where did he come up with this? I kind of get into it a little bit.
Yeah, try to have...
So it went downhill quick. People started doing what's Moonbeam Ice Cream? I hate Benson Boone.
Wow. Really drove off a cliff there. You go, wow, that fast.
But, if I'm being honest, It worked pretty well.
Yeah.
It worked pretty well.
People started talking about you, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they did.
Yeah.
This interview has gotten the best reception that I've seen in a while to the discourse and to him talking about it. But when you see him actually sitting and chatting and talking, you do see kind of those glimpses of authenticity that people are asking for. And it's just a shame to me that probably for him, it's more scary to be authentic now. It would be more scary to change because people hate you. So imagine if either A, you felt like you were being authentic and everyone hated you because of it, or B, you're now scared to be authentic because everyone hates you. I did want to show you guys that interview because I think it did spark some interesting conversations. And the final thing I wanted to talk about quickly before we got into the album situation of it all is his Crumbl cookie collab. And I feel like in the same way that the backflips kind of have the same vibes as Beautiful Things, Crumbl cookie kind of has the same vibes as Benson Boone, where people just really kind of love to hate Crumbl cookie. They're oversaturated, overhyped. We've seen enough, we've heard enough about them, and also like Mormon background ? A lot of people are just roasting his Crumbl cookie, and I think the problem is that a lot of people are finally admitting that Crumbl cookies don't taste very good. I don't know whose idea this was. I just feel like this cookie and the Crumbl cookie situationification of it all did not help. Let's finally get into American Heart and kind of where we stand and the whole situation and the reaction to his new music, because it's been really interesting. It's been really crazy bananas. He does talk about in that Tonight Show interview that the name and like the flag and all of that stuff it's not a political statement.
It's not meant to be some patriotic, like, this is who I voted for. It's more like, it's me as Benson Boone, the little kid that grew up with a dream to just like continue doing things that I love with the people that I love. And it kind of sets the tone for the album.
So take him at his word or don't, up to you. And I mean, he's not the only person to use an American flag in their album artwork, but I think again, the album artwork again doesn't connect with the performer you see on stage. He's dirty with a flag on his album artwork, and it's meant to be like really about him and his heart and who he is and everything like that. And that just has such a disconnect with who he is on stage as a performer in the glittery jumpsuits doing a flip. Unfortunately for Benson Boone, the industry, the critics, they do not like American Heart. So I did want to play you this one TikTok before we get into some of the articles talking about his album, because woof, people are not holding back. And I feel like if anything, this is kind of an argument that he's not an industry plant, because I feel like if he was an industry plant, people would just say, yeah, it's good, it's fine, whatever. But he is getting roasted for this album.
Okay, I've listened to the new Benson Boone album, American Heart. I've read all of the criticism about it, and I want to talk about it because obviously there is a lot of hate coming towards this album, and it confused me in some sense because to my ears this is a pretty straight down the line okay pop album. It didn't overly excite me that much, but there are also songs on it that I found totally passable and less offensive than an Imagine Dragons or a Maroon 5 album. And so I really wanted to think a little bit more about why this is kind of conjuring this response in people, and I think what I've ended up with is that the iconography that Benson Boone uses suggests kind of profound meaning to his work or some kind of presence as a performer. Like in terms of the iconography that he's using for this whole era, from performance style to the album cover, he's tapping into artists like Elton John, Freddie Mercury, Bruce Springsteen. The difference between Benson Boone and these artists is those artists could explain exactly why they were doing what they were doing. Let's start with the album cover. To me, this is the craziest part of all of it, because calling the album American Heart with an album cover like this, which is quite a provocative image for an extremely tense time for the country. For me, it evokes kind of conservatism, but obviously this album says nothing uniquely conservative. In fact, I'd probably have less criticism for this album cover if he was saying something Jason Aldean-esque, because at least he's standing on something there. But instead, what he says about America basically comes down to the final song, where he says that he doesn't want to die young and talks about being in a near-death experience when he was growing up with one of his best friends in a car crash. And that's all well and good, but talking about being wild and free at a time when many people in the country certainly do not feel wild and free, is a head-scratching choice.
I totally agree, and I really like Sam. I think he's really eloquent and he's way more in tune with the music industry than I am, so I appreciate his opinions greatly. I do think he points out, like, if this is an album that's about him so personally and deeply, it really doesn't sound like it has anything to do with America or with that kind of aspect of his life. And it feels like, again, like what I said before, there's no connection between the imagery, the name, the songs, and then his persona that he performs as. Like, that everything feels so disconnected. And maybe it's just because he's a 23-year-old guy, and it's like, how deep can you get? I don't know. I don't want to be mean. Like, I don't want to be mean. I don't want to be mean about it. I really just don't understand the choices that were made, because it feels so disconnected, and it really does feed into those inauthenticity arguments about him.
And shows that he's just really not that tapped in, particularly when you're using queer iconography. By showing inspiration by artists like Freddie Mercury, he appeared with Brian May at Coachella and performed Bohemian Rhapsody while wearing a sparkly jumpsuit. It comes off as just so completely inauthentic. It's not offensive to make a pop album that's just like fine. There are so many out there, and I could give you like 10 examples at least from this year. But the imagery that he's using suggests that there's something behind Benson Boone that is just not there. For example, American Heart could kind of give like Bruce Springsteen Born in the USA, but Bruce Springsteen wasn't using the flag as this symbol of patriotism. He was using it to critique the country, the treatment particularly of the working class and veterans of the Vietnam War. Using this as your cover at this very time without saying anything at all really is kind of the equivalent of a white Australian wearing a Straight Outta Compton t-shirt. Context is everything, and the reality here is there is no context, and it's confusing to me why the people around him let him go in this direction when he had nothing to back it up, when he could have kind of just been shirtless on the cover lying on a beach chair.
I just love when people are smarter than me and say things so eloquently. I think that's such a good comparison of the Born in the USA, the Bruce Springsteen. Oh, like, I really do. Like, that's why I wanted to show you guys this video, because I'm like, yes, Sam gets it, you know? And I think that is the major problem with the album, is that there isn't a message. So what was the reason? Was it just to be provocative? Was it to use something that is very divisive and emotive and not particularly in a good way at the moment? Like, it's just confusing. And that's why I kind of relate it back to, is this just a young guy that doesn't have much depth to his decisions? Was that really mean? I don't know. But anyway, let's continue.
Pop music doesn't have to be profound. It can be fun. And there are moments on this album that are fun, like Mr. Electric Blue in particular, I think is a great pop song. But why set yourself up like this for no reason? It feels like he's doing drag without knowing that he's doing drag. And it's clear that he's self-aware about all the hate. The Mr. Electric Blue video shows that, and his TikTok videos show that as well, which at least shows he has some kind of sense of humor. But then if you're digging deeper behind that, he's clearly not aware where these feelings are coming from, because everything surrounding this album just sets him up so spectacularly for failure for almost no reason. I feel that all this backlash is really about a disconnect between performance and identity, and I feel like that's the major issue that he needs to fix.
And I think now is a really good time to talk about Mr. Electric Blue as a song and a music video before we get into the other articles that criticize this album. But yes, in Mr. Electric Blue, he really is poking fun of himself. It really is all about this conversation and this dynamic of the internet, of the culture hating him and him trying to fix it. Having a jab, not taking himself too seriously, but then that also doesn't really fit with the persona he has on the stage, with the album artwork. Like, I don't understand why he's dirty. I don't know why it bothers me so much. I think it's because, like, him being dirty on the album cover and then him performing so clean, like, I feel like, you know, when you're wearing the glitter and the jumpsuits, like, that's so clean, that's so put together, that's so camp, it's so queer and drag and like all of these other aspects, and it just, like, why is he dirty on the album cover? Like, it really doesn't make sense. And I feel like that's where there is no cohesion with the album, and that's where, but with Mr. Electric Blue, specifically the music video, it's almost like this conversation has taken over that song and that music video. He's kind of lost the point and lost the meaning. Yes, that is a response video, but when you compare it to, like, I don't know, a Taylor Swift Blank Space, that music videos still fit within the era. Reputation, Look What You Made Me Do, still fit within the era. The old Taylor Can't Come to the Phone Right Now. Oh, why? Because she's... Those responses to the culture and the conversation around those people still perfectly fit within that person as an artist, within the album and the message behind the album. Whereas it feels like this music video doesn't fit. It's like, yes, it's a response, but it feels so isolated and it doesn't fit with the album cover, with how he's performing, with the person you see on Jimmy Fallon. And I think that is in part why he's had this negative response. But I did kind of want to read you guys a couple of these very savage reviews of his album. If we start with Pitchfork, it starts with Benson Boone's flair can't make up for the fact that his songs aren't very good and that he lacks a unique point of view. And I just wanted to read you this part specifically. It's also important to note that Boone has the drop on us critics here. He's aware that following his show-stopping Grammy performance earlier this year, he might be pegged as a one-trick pony forever to top the 2 billion streaming hit that brought him here. The music video for the lively Mr. Electric Blue, a dim highlight from his merciful brief second album, American Heart, begins with a sketch of Boone being summoned into an office of his slimy agent, played by his real-life producer and songwriting partner, Jack LaFrance. Boone is indeed wearing his shirt that says One Hit Wonder. The ending especially really is quite savage, where it says, "So I don't fault the wholesome pop star son of Mormon parents for not writing songs about the rot at the heart of America, or for not biting the heads off bats on stage. But it's really hard to consider a teetotaling showman with a voice straight out of The Voice and not think, what makes any of this actually special? Sure, he can sing, but there's very little flair, camp, sass." Oh my God, these people use such big words. "Or insonance to his voice to give it dimension and character." Boone's words come out in one impressively earnest register like his forefather Ed Sheeran and the long line of buskers before him. There's nothing here to say that Boone is ready to enter the pantheon of real showmen. No more than the thousands of other guys singing, dancing, and backflipping for you on Instagram Reel. And they gave him a 3.7 out of 10, so very clearly saying it is below average. And I think that's what a lot of people are feeling like, is that there's this huge disconnect with such a bold and ballsy album cover paired with this completely dichotomous persona performing online. These critics wouldn't be so critical if the album and his collaborations with Brian May, like all of those things, carry such depth and meaning and promise. And it feels like he's just undelivering on the promises that were being made by the setup for this album. And so let's finish with Variety, who said, "In American Heart, Benson Boone's music still isn't half as much fun as his image. So it's no fun to report that American Heart, his second album, is mostly not very fun. There are scattered attempts to bring some of the cheekiness and cockiness that is part of his performing image, but mostly it seems that as a recording artist anyway, Boone really does want to remain in the realm of Teddy Swimsness or even Alex Warren's of the world, with material that is mawkish before it's rockish or raucous." Oh my gosh. These people have such a bigger vocabulary than I do. "His chops are unassailable and that go more than a little way towards elevating earthbound material. He's got what it takes to be ready, Freddie, but for the most part, we're talking about Bohemian Knapsody. The more mirthful numbers fare best. Mystical Magical has already been out for a couple months, so you may have already decided how down you are with Moonbeam Ice Cream. Personally speaking, I am a sucker for ridiculous language in the service of a silly love song." I can feel that in this person's writing. So it kind of works. The hook is a bit cloying, as in an earworm, but it's still a frothy step in the right direction for Boone. Sorry I'm Here for Someone Else, another advanced single, does a nice job of capturing that uneasy feeling of running into a cherished ex on a mediocre date. If this were a country song, it would be played for rulefulness, but because it's Benson's and because it's pop, it ends with Boone running back into the arms of his true love. It also ends rather abruptly, as several of the songs on the album do, in a seeming rush to wrap the whole record up in an efficient 30 minutes. And I can't help but Carrie Bradshaw wonder if he had just promised a silly, light, camp, but without a deep message album, would he have received such criticism? I don't think so. There was such a promise with the album, and then when he talked about it on Jimmy Fallon as this being him, his heart, who he is, everything about him, like so much depth was promised and it was so under-delivered that is why we are seeing so much criticism of the album. And I think it just really leaves us in a what now kind of moment, where, as it was said on Jimmy Fallon, like his tour has sold out, so he's not an unsuccessful artist. It's not as if he's doing poorly, but he might just not be an artist that gets the critical reception until he can find that depth, until he can find what is authentic to him, until he can find who he is as a performer and what is his message. And maybe he just likes the idea of promising depth without acknowledging that he might just not have much to offer as it goes for a message. Not all artists are promising a deep message. He likes the idea of the depth. He likes the idea of being an icon like Freddie, David, Harry, you know, performing with Brian May. Like, he wants all of that. So he wants the depth and he wants to offer something deeper, but he doesn't know what that is yet. So that's why everything feels so disconnected. That's why everything feels like it doesn't make sense as part of one album, as part of one person, as part of one performer. And so yes, he's popular, he can sing, he's personable enough in interviews, he has enough stage presence to sell out shows, but he's overpromising a message and depth and authenticity, and this is who he is, before he knows what that is to him yet. And I feel like that was my biggest takeaway from this rabbit hole and this deep dive and this whole question as to why the internet and the culture feels that way about him. He is young, so there is a lot of time to grow. There is a lot of time to find who you are and what your message is. He did get famous so young, so maybe the answer is the most obvious one, where he doesn't know who he really is as a performer, as a person even, or as the message that he wants to provide in his music. And so in trying to emulate things that he has seen other artists do successfully and that he likes, it ends up just being a copying because he has no perspective to add. But I would really love to know what you guys think about this whole situation, the hateritis of it all. What are your thoughts on Benson? What are your thoughts on Moonbeam Ice Cream? What kind of flip is he doing? Like, please let me know in the comments down below. This has been such a rabbit hole. I know I've been filming for so long. It's been a journey. It really, truly has. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I really want to know what you guys feel and think in the comments down below. So please let me know. But yes, that I think is all. Surely that is all. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you stay till the end, you are a real one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to keep up with me between my uploads, I'm on TikTok and Instagram, and I'll link my vlog channel down below. And YouTube should be recommending another one of my videos on the screen right now. But don't you worry, guys, because I'm not funny there either. Bye.